Let's go to Parliament now. Majority MPs there have described as mischievous, useless and premature a motion by Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga seeking that the House rejects the constitutional instrument that will allow the Electoral Commission to register new voters based on a new set of rules. The new CI, if passed by Parliament, will remove the voter's ID card as a registration document for a new voter ID card. But then it will allow for the use of the Ghana card. The CI needs 21 continuous sitting days to mature, and today is day number 10. The notice of motion filed by Mr. Ayariga is asking the House to reject the Public Elections Registration of Voters Amendment Regulation 2020, that is CI 126, even before the Subsidiary Legislation Committee submits a report on the CI to the floor. NPP MP for Kwankwe Central, Patrick Yabuama, and NPP MP for Sekendi, Andrew Ejapa Mesa, say the motion will be shot down by the majority.
Create some confusion in the minds of Ghanaians, but it's going to be, I think it's premature because I don't see the basis for his application and how he's going to succeed in this application. He's not going to succeed. So maybe it's part of the NDC's grand scheme of making the whole electoral process and our quest to have a peaceful general election come 2020, December 7th. Peaceful. One, he's not challenging the EC's power to amend the CI. He's not challenging it. He's just asking for a rejection. And what will be the basis for your rejection? We are all members. Ayariga is not a member of the Subsidiary Legislative Committee. We are members. We've sat down, we've gone through the CI. Unfortunately for the NDC, the chairman of the committee is a former Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Dominic Ahine. We sat through with EC officials 2 or 3 times. We were agreed. It's been laid and it's going through the constitutional process as set out by Article 11.7. So I don't understand the mischief that he's seeking to foment.
But to the legal basis, Parliament has admitted the laying based on which it was referred to the committee. If someone files a motion asking the House to reject the document, couldn't the premise be that that's substantially what he wants the House to reverse its decision on? The whole idea that you're accepting the document and referring it to subsidiary legislation and not exactly having to wait for the document to mature before you can bring in a motion to vacate that approval that the House gave.
I don't begrudge that premature stance, but I'm saying he cannot succeed. That's what I want to tell you, because there is no substance in what I read from on the face of the motion that he submitted. On the face of it, I don't think Ayariga is going to succeed. We are determined and we are going to support every constitutional process towards a free, fair general elections come December.
For you, you are determined to get this document approved regardless of the objections that the minority MPs are raising?
I am determined to support every constitutional process as set out by the Constitution towards a free and a peaceful general election.
Let's get live to Parliament now. Our correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is standing by to give us some more. Hello, Joseph. Joseph, so let's start with the basis for this motion. The CI is already 10 days. What basis did Mr. Ayariga, upon what basis did he bring this motion to Parliament today?
He thinks that there's a case of discrimination with the decision to allow for a situation where you can't go ahead and register for the new voter's ID card with a passport or an NI card, but per the CI you can't use the birth certificate to do that. He thinks it's very discriminatory because even the passport can only be gained on the basis of having a birth certificate. He also is of the very firm conviction conviction that there is a situation of Ghana trying to deal with a pandemic based on which a number of restrictions have been introduced. And so what the EC should be focused on doing is taking advantage of the current register and going ahead to do a form of a cleanup instead of trying to go through the process of getting a whole register done, which could in a certain way expose Ghanaians to the issues having to do with COVID-19. These are two and more reasons that he says are the basis for which he wants Parliament to consider the decision, the motion that he's actually seeking to move, so that then the whole CI will actually be rejected by Parliament. I've been seeking clarity from him further on why he's doing this and what his expectations are, because this will require more than 2/3 of MPs backing this particular motion. And as we heard from Patrick Yabuama, he will not have the support of the majority. But he says even if that support doesn't come, well, the case is being made, and he'll be glad that Ghanaians hear their side of the story.
Should have been taken on how to treat the motion. And I hope to hear something from the majority leader tomorrow when he is reading the business statement. At that time, we'll know what the fate of the motion is so far, and we can take it up from there.
Your colleague, Patrick Yabuama, who is on the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, makes a case that this is virtually dead on arrival because there is no decision that the House has taken on that CI yet, which everyone is waiting for when the report of the committee comes and after the 21 days period expires. So currently, there's no decision that the House has taken based on which you can say you are moving a motion to either vacate or support. What do you say to such a rebuttal to your move?
My brother, Honorable Patrick Boama, misunderstands the process. If you recall, I was the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and I know how it functions. When an LI or CI is brought and laid in the House, whether or not you write a report, whether or not you take any action, doesn't really matter. After 21 days, automatically it comes into force. Whether the Subsidiary Legislation Committee meets, does not meet, presents a report or does not present a report, after 21 days, a CI that has been validly laid will automatically come into force. Usually the committee meets and reviews it and then makes some recommendations. But because under our Constitution, you cannot even amend it. You cannot amend. You either accept it in whole or you reject it outright in whole. So because you cannot amend it, what the Subsidiary Legislation Committee has been doing over the years has been to consider a CI before it is laid. Because when it is laid, you can't amend it. But the proponents of the CI or the LI will bring it to you before they lay it. And then as a committee, you review it, and if there are changes that ought to be made, you make the recommendation to them. They go back, they effect the changes, then they now bring it to you, and then they lay it in Parliament. When they lay it, very often what really happens is that you take what is laid, and then you just write a report on it, because you've already worked on it before it is laid. So that's what we call the pre-laying, consideration. So that is what really has been happening. After it has been laid, there's nothing you can do about it, either to accept it in whole or to reject it.
So for you, there is no.
So there's no alternative. The committee can decide not to meet. They can decide not to present a report. Parliament can decide not to debate it. After 21 days, the CI will automatically become law.
So that's Mr. Mahama Ayariga there. I still have Joseph Opoku-Gakpost on standby at the Parliament House. Joseph, so we've heard the explanation that he gives and the way forward as far as his perspective goes. But then the minority seeks to say they did not know that this CI was filed. How is that?
So the argument the minority makes, and particularly Mr. Ayariga makes, is that it's a very separate process in terms of the steps that will lead to the maturing of this particular CI, and if someone wants to pull brakes on the CI. So we all just waiting. It's likely that in the next 3 weeks or so, the counting will be done in order for this particular document to mature. And the argument the minority makes is there is no alternative way around getting any amendment or pulling brakes on this particular CI, apart from moving a motion on the floor for that to be debated and approved. And in fact, Gifty, the fact that Mr. Ayariga has served notice that he will file this particular motion doesn't mean this is a motion that will be heard. It will go through a whole lengthy process. You will see on the document with the motion that he's filed that this is actually something that was filed on the 19th of May. Now, what we gather is that the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu himself, submitted this particular document on behalf of Mr. Ayariga and the minority to the table office and the speaker's office here in Parliament. Now, what we're waiting for is that the speaker needs to admit this particular motion and agree that this is something that he wants to be heard on the floor. A date will be fixed. Mr. Ayariga will be given the opportunity to move the motion on the floor. MPs will debate it both on the majority and the minority side. And this motion only becomes approved after it's gotten the support of more than 2/3 of the members of Parliament. So it's a very complicated process. It's possible the speaker may decide not to admit the motion, and what that will mean is that it will not be moved on the floor of Parliament at all, or even after it's admitted and it's moved, then the House may vote against it. So the minority MPs are indicating that they are clear in their minds on what the processes are, and anyone challenging the process that they're seeking to use to get this particular approval and rejection done virtually doesn't know what he or she is talking about.
Okay, so let's look at the two things that are the possible consequences, right? So let's begin with the CI itself. What more do we know about it in terms of the content, the details, and what it will do apart from stopping people from using the voter's ID card to re-register, if you like, so to speak?
Gifty, if I got your question clear, you'd want to understand what are the other points contained in this particular CI that's actually been laid in Parliament. And it's actually a very brief document, just about 2 pages, and it makes the point that it actually has to do with the registration of new voters. First of all, just to be clear, one additional indication and clarification we're getting is that if even this CI doesn't mature, the EC can go ahead and do any registration that they want to do, except that it would have to be based on the existing constitutional instrument, which lays out the documents that can be used for any registration, and that includes old voters' ID cards as well as birth certificates, apart from the passports and also all of that. And the old CI doesn't make provision for the use of the Ghana card if you would want to register for the new voters' ID card. And so the simple amendment that is being sought to the electoral laws per this constitutional instrument is that when any registration of voters need to be done, then 2 primary documents: either you show up with the Ghana card, which the NIA is registering people so that then they can hold, or you show up with a passport. Or if you don't have any of the 2 documents, then you need to get people who have already registered to then show up and come and serve as witnesses and to witness the documents and claim that they know that you are a Ghanaian and that you should be able to get on the register. Those are the only 3 possible ways of getting onto whatever new register that would eventually be done, beyond which it will not be possible for anyone to get into the register. And for the minority, they think this will disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians, although if you don't have any of these primary cards, you can still do so with others testifying for you, and that's why they are really objecting to it.
Thank you, Joseph. But is there anything else that happened in Parliament today that we should know following yesterday's mass sample taking? But Joseph, I was just asking if there is anything else happening in Parliament today that we need to know after yesterday's mass sample taken for COVID-19.
So today the testing has actually been ongoing right in the basement area here in Parliament. Other MPs and staff of Parliament have actually been going in order to get their samples taken. We've gotten the notification, Gift, and you were asking about this yesterday, that for the members of the Parliamentary Press Corps, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they can also show up in order to get their samples taken, even as the testing processes unfold. So we're looking forward to that's happening tomorrow. But on the floor of Parliament itself, there's been a statement earlier today by George Anda, who is an MP and also Deputy Communications Minister, calling on Ghanaians to pay attention to happenings on the road and on all stakeholders in the road sector to take the necessary steps and make the necessary efforts to make our roads safe, so that then there are not cases of people dying as a result of road accidents. And in the course of making that statement, which saw contributions from other members of Parliament, Mr. George Anda commended the multimedia group for the Arrive Alive campaign and the impact that has made in terms of ensuring that Ghanaians adhere to various safety measures on the road, so there isn't a case of people dying as a result of road accidents. And so the Arrive Alive campaign has been receiving some commendation from the members of Parliament, and they are encouraging Ghanaians and drivers to stay safe on the road so they will be able to arrive alive.
Certainly, we all must arrive alive as we fight this pandemic. Joseph, thank you. I look forward to that mass testing as well of Parliamentary Press Corps. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joining me live from Parliament.